All right. Yes, thank you, Jen, for that great introduction. Greatly appreciate that. As Jen said, my name is Scott Mehus, and I've been at the National Eagle Center now here since 2006. But I've had a very deep fascination and love for golden eagles since a very young age. Well, maybe it wasn't quite that long ago, but as Jen mentioned, my fascination with them began when I was a student at Vermilion Community College up in Ely, Minnesota. And my professor, Bill Teft, took us down to Hawk Ridge. And I fell in love. It was the first year that Frank Nicoletti was there. And so like a sponge, I took in as much information as I could about identifying raptors and learned so much from Frank and all the other hawk watchers up there. After graduating from Vermilion, I received a job working for the DNR in southeast Minnesota. And by the time that fall started rolling around, I started thinking about Hawk Ridge and going back up and seeing those golden eagles. But I had heard that there were golden eagles in southeast Minnesota where bird watchers had been regularly going for decades, literally Whitewater State Park, Whitewater Management Area, down near Money Creek in Houston County. So I went down to those locations, and sure enough, I found golden eagles. But I started thinking, well, there's a lot of habitat up and down this river valley. It looks just like this right here. It's what we call the driftless area. Why aren't there golden eagles in these other locations as well? So I started looking, and sure enough, I started finding more and more than had ever been reported before. So then I thought, well, maybe I better make sure I'm correct on those identifications. So I went back to my bird book, opened it up, and compared the two species, and sure enough, I was making the correct identification. I knew the differences between the two. But then when I turned to the back of my Roger Torrey Peterson's book, I looked at the maps in the back, and this was the map that I encountered in that Roger Torrey Peterson book. Excuse me. There weren't supposed to be any golden eagles anywhere near where we were at. So that started to doubt that a little bit more. So then I thought, well, maybe these golden eagles are just way too fast for me. And maybe I'm double counting them. I'm seeing the same birds over and over in all these different valleys. So as Jen mentioned, I started the survey back in 2005 to get people out on one particular day in January. It's always the third Saturday in January to look for golden eagles. Those people got out there and we started finding more and more golden eagles. Well, I won't go in real depth to all the surveys. You can always look up this stuff online at the National Eagle Center.org. But you can see there were a couple of years there, 2017, 2018, when the numbers went down pretty low. That wasn't because the population dropped. It was just because we had fog. And it was very hard to see any birds, let alone those often elusive golden eagles. As you can see, the numbers the last couple of years here, in 2025, our most recent survey, we had over 226 observers out on that Saturday. We cover 59 counties in southeast Minnesota, western Wisconsin, northeast Iowa, and northwest Illinois. And we're expanding it into northern parts of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin as well. And so we're always looking for more and more surveyors for the survey. And as I mentioned, this year we had 139 golden eagles spotted on survey day. But as we're out there looking, we're also looking at bald eagles as well. And so we typically average well over 1,000 bald eagles each year on the survey. There you can see a few of the years as the numbers are well over 1,000. This year, the number will come in at 1,800. 1,800. Now, I see that was quite a drop from the previous year, but what that does tell me, and based on observations here, is that we had more birds this particular winter that went further down into southern Illinois. At the time of the survey, it was a cold snap, and so birds went further down, and so some of those birds didn't get counted. And so those bald eagles are more migratory and moving around to where the food is. The golden eagles, though, they're more tied to these winter territories throughout the wintertime. They don't do the moving around like the bald eagles do. We typically average over 12 different types of raptors on the survey as well. And as I mentioned before, the annual survey is always the third Saturday in January. We're always looking for more surveyors. It's your opportunity after the Christmas bird counts to get back out again looking for some birds. And it's a great opportunity. And if you're interested in that, just send me an email at golden@nationaleaglecenter.org. Be glad to get you hooked up. As Jen mentioned, we also got together with the DNR and Mark Martell from Audubon, Minnesota at the time to form a partnership to figure out where these birds are going. We know they come here during the winter, but where are these birds going for the rest of the year? And so we released several of these birds, and we now know that they're not going out west, as many people thought. When I first started bird watching, the theory is that these birds were coming from somewhere out west and then migrating here for the winter and then going back out west again. Well, spending all that time up there with Frank Nicoletti at Hawk Ridge, that never made sense to me that all these birds were coming from the west and then getting pushed up against Lake Superior and Hawk Ridge, seemed like then we should have very similar numbers of other western species like prairie falcons and Swainson's hawks and other western species. And so it made more sense to be coming from the north. And sure enough, that's exactly where these golden eagles are coming from. In fact, well over 2,000 miles north of Minnesota in some cases, just below the Arctic Circle. Here's a map showing all the different locations that the golden eagles that we released over the years have spent their summers. So they are up in those northern reaches during the summer, but then they are down here in Minnesota and Wisconsin during the winter months. They typically arrive in mid to late October, and the adults are generally only here until late February, early March. That's when they start heading back north. But those juveniles, they can be seen well into all of March and all of April, and even sometimes into May. It is possible to see golden eagles out there. And so, as Ben Douglas mentioned earlier in his talk earlier today, I was excited to hear that they've been seeing some birds up by Carpenter. That's awesome. These birds, I think, have, and as Ben mentioned as well, I think these birds have been here all along. It just takes some looking. They're a little bit more harder to find. Once you get out there and start looking, we're finding them well beyond the driftless area, which is where I originally started. As I mentioned, yes, they're in the driftless area, but they are in other areas across Minnesota as well. The golden eagles typically like areas where it's forested with interspersed open areas. And so whether that's prairie habitat interspersed amongst those forested areas, or whether that's wetlands that are now frozen, that gives them opportunities to stay well hidden within the forest, but then also going out to those open areas to catch their prey in there. But where they are not is near the water. In fact, in the 30 years now that I've been watching and studying golden eagles, only once have I seen a golden eagle within a block or two of the river or water. They are in the bluff country. They are in those forested areas because the golden eagles are not fish eaters. They are not eating fish. So then you say, well, Scott, then what is on the menu for these golden eagles? Well, primarily their number one predator that I see them feeding on is fox squirrels, and then gray squirrels, then followed by eastern cottontails. Next is a shocker, just based on the size. Many of you probably have heard this before, but the golden eagles in this area are regularly going after wild turkeys. Yes, going after wild turkeys, a bird that weighs as much or more than they do. Pretty amazing sight to see them take down a turkey. Over the years, occasionally see them feeding on dead animals and things like that, but for the most part, they are more likely taking advantage of live prey, even sometimes as big as, deer. I've seen this several times over the years. I've never seen them be successful. It's always been young birds. I always say it's like teenagers. They think they can handle anything, but in reality, they can't. But hey, if it works, you've got a pretty good meal for quite some time. Now, I know many of you are tuning in here to learn more about learning how to identify these. And so I wanted to share some things about how to put a name to that golden eagle or the bald eagle. And at first, it kind of seems a little prickly. Maybe you don't want to touch that. But I think if I give you some steps here today, I think that you'll be able to just hang on and we'll be able to make identifications much easier for you. At least that's my goal. Now, one of the things that I often hear, I hear this almost every day at the National Eagle Center with their visitors here, is that they've heard that golden eagles are so much larger than bald eagles. Well, I got to tell you, in my 30 years, not once have I ever said to myself, oh, wow, that is so much larger. That must be a golden eagle. Now, in fact, when we look at the textbook, female golden eagles are 10% larger than female bald eagles, coming from the same geographic region. But even that 10% is not enough to say, wow, that is a much bigger bird. Now, what we have to remember, though, is remember in eagles, the females are larger. So we have the adult female there on that carcass there, and that younger male there waiting for his turn there. So in eagles, the females are larger. You've got that. Then in this particular picture, we've got an adult bald eagle on the left. Based on the size, we're going to assume that that bird to the right is a female, and we know there's a juvenile based on that plumage. Now, what we have to realize there as well is that juvenile birds also have longer flight feathers. Okay, those longer flight feathers of several inches on the primaries and secondaries and tail feathers can act like training feathers for them. And so they actually do appear bigger than their parents in some cases, especially when the parent next to you is a male, but even more so because of those longer feathers. Now, here you can see a couple of juvenile bald eagles with those longer retained secondaries there being molted out there, but you can see how much they're longer those first couple of years of life. Now, Here's a bald eagle, golden eagle side by side. That's when they look very much similar to each other. That's during their very first year of their life. Now, as that bald eagle ages, gets into that second, third year of life, then they tend to get more and more white feathers in the head, and they don't look so much like a golden eagle anymore. But as a juvenile, they definitely do look like a golden eagle. First thing we're going to look at, though, is that beak. That bald eagle's beak is large and massive, and it's also all dark. So as you can see, that beak is dark all the way from the base here, from the tip all the way to the base. It's all black all the way through. Where on a golden eagle, the beak is much smaller, and I know that's hard to tell sometimes, size, but here you can see it's also different coloration. And this is true for the golden eagle of all ages. It'll always be dark at the tip, then bluish gray, and then yellow. So dark at the tip, then bluish gray, and then yellow. Whereas the juvenile bald eagle, it'll be dark the first year and a half or so, then it'll start to get lighter and lighter. But that first year, when they most look like a golden eagle, it's going to look pretty similar. So here we've got a bald eagle, juvenile bald eagle beak. Here they are side by side, the bald eagle on the left, and there's that tricolored beak of the golden eagle on the right. Once again, bald eagle's all dark beak, and it's very massive. It's got a big beak. I'm guessing that some of you in this audience are old enough to know who this is. It's Jimmy Durante. Jimmy Durante was known for a lot of things, but most importantly, he was known for his big old schnoz. He had a big old schnoz. Well, bald eagles are the Jimmy Durantes of the world. They have those big old schnozes as well. So when you see a big old schnoz, you're looking at Jimmy Durante. The reason I bring that up is when I sometimes look at a golden eagle in the distance, I have to look and see whether it has a beak or not. If you're looking at a bird far away and you can see a beak, you're looking at a bald eagle. But if the beak is small enough, it may be looking at a golden eagle. So the bald eagle's beak is large, the golden eagle's beak is much smaller. Much smaller schnoz, very much like Michael Jackson's much smaller schnoz. Now, the golden eagles get their name from those golden brown feathers on the back of their head. That coloration can vary quite a bit from bird to bird, but they always have it on the back of their neck. Young bald eagles can have brownish gold feathers on a variety of different spots. Back of the wing, back of the body, sometimes top of the head, sometimes just on the top of the head. Here's a bird that's kind of all brown all over, but it will not be restricted to the nape as it is in the golden eagle. It's only restricted there. Now, bald eagles don't have bald heads, but what you will remember from here on out is that bald eagles have bald legs. Because they're dipping in the water, they have no feathers there. That helps reduce drag. So bald eagles have bald legs. Golden eagles have feathered legs, not found near water, can afford to have feathers there. That affords protection. And so they have feathers that go all the way down there towards the toes. Here's the two birds side by side, the bald eagle with the bald legs, the golden eagle with the feathered legs. Now, the golden eagles are found across North America, as we now know, but we also know that they're found across Europe as well. And we all know that in some parts of the world or in some parts of the United States, we all like that clean-shaven look. But in some parts of Europe, they like to let things grow a little bit. And so those golden eagles from Europe, they like to let things grow a little bit. So they got those feathers going all the way down to their toes. Now, here's a quiz for you. So shout this out to cyberspace here so I can hear you. But this is your first quiz bird. If this was the only thing you were seeing, what do we know this bird to be? It is a juvenile, or it is a bald eagle. It's a bald eagle based on the bald legs, placed in the bald legs. Very good. Now, as with any type of birding, you always want to use more than one field mark. Don't just use one. And so when we're seeing this particular picture, we can see a little bit of the golden nape there a little bit. But what we're also noticing here is this little part right here. On the leading edge of the wing, where the bend of the wing is right here, you can see a little bit of a golden edge. Golden eagles have that golden edge right there. Here you can see this one really stands out with that golden leading edge of the wing right there. And here's another one showing that on a bird as well. So there's our bird, our mystery bird there with everything revealed. And we can see the feathered legs. We also see a tricolored bill there as well. How about this one? So we want to use more than multiple field marks, but we also use other things too, like associating the time of the year and also where we are at. And so in this particular case, it looks like water behind it. So probably not a golden eagle. So let's look. Yep, there it is, that big Jimmy Durante beak and that all dark beak all the way through, juvenile bald eagle. Now that's great if we can get this close a look, right? But most of the time, there are things like this when we're birding. And so if we have binoculars though, or spotting scopes, we can often zoom in to see some things that we need to see. Now, in the lower right here, you can see a couple of golden eagles adults. They're all brown underneath, kind of almost a two-toned appearance. It's those juveniles on the left here that have those nice patches in the wing and in the tail. Now in the tail is dark on the base of it, at the tip of it, excuse me, and then at the base here, it's white. And the tail of the adult is kind of more mottled, doesn't have that clear distinction between the two colors for the adult tail as we're looking at here. But in this particular image here, we're looking at a golden eagle on the lower right, an adult. But then all the other birds are juvenile eagles. The three at the top are the juvenile bald eagles, and the two in the lower left there are golden eagles. Notice how the golden eagles have white in the outer part of the wing. Yes, bald eagles have white in the outer part of the wing as well, but more importantly, the bald eagles always have white here in the axillaries or the wing pits. Bald eagles have white in the axillaries, in the wing pits. And so here you can see there's that white in the wing pit. Yes, there's white out here, but more importantly, the white is in the wing pits or the axillaries. Here is a golden eagle with the white in the outer part of the wrist. Here you can see a bald eagle here with the white in the wing pit. Here's a golden eagle, white in the outer part. Yes, it does sneak in a little bit, but the predominant amount of white is in the outer part near the wrist. Sometimes that can vary a little bit depending on how much white is in each area. And here is an adult golden eagle with no white in the outer part of the wing. Sometimes that white can appear on the upper surface of the wing as well. So how are you going to remember that the bald eagle is having the white in the wing pits? Well, here's the old deodorant or the cologne part of the presentation. So the bald eagles have the white in the wing pits. So it's almost like they're wearing that white cakey deodorant, you know, that white cakey stuff that kind of works its way out into the sleeve a little bit. And so the bald eagle, as our nation symbol, should probably wear some deodorant, right? And so it has that, well, not like that, but it has the white in the outer, near the wing, not just in the outer part. Now, I'm sure many of you are saying, I can't believe you just told us that, but yes, it's true. The bald eagles have the white cakey deodorant, where the golden eagles, yes, as we learned earlier, they're found across Europe as well. And those Europeans, they do like to wear their cologne, but they like to wear it out near their wrist, just a little bit, and not slab it on underneath the armpits. So the bald eagles have the white near the wing pits, the golden eagles out near the wrist. Now, breaking news, if you've not heard, the bald eagle is now the official national bird of the United States. Now, I know many of you are probably surprised by that news and are wondering, well, I thought it was. I mean, a lot of people were thinking that was the case, but thankfully some folks here at the Eagle Center were able to get that passed. And on right before Christmas, President Biden was signed that into law. So now the bald eagle is our official national symbol and now our official national bird. And so it has a lot of responsibility. And so it probably should also have a very big head. Bald eagles have big heads. They have a lot of heads sticking out in the front, about as much head sticking out in front as they have tail behind. Whereas a golden eagle has a very short head projection versus a lot of tail. Once again, bald eagles have a big head, a lot to represent. So they have a big head sticking out in the front and a lot of tail sticking out behind. Golden eagle, short head projection. Very similar, that short head projection, to a turkey vulture that are just starting to come back in the area. They have a short head projection as well. The other thing relates to turkey vultures is that turkey vultures have a dihedral. Well, golden eagles have a slight dihedral as well. So during the wintertime, if you see a bird that's soaring with a slight dihedral, you might want to look a bit more closely, as it may be a golden eagle, compared to the bald eagle, who has a much more flat wing profile overall. The golden eagle has that slight dihedral. All right, now it's time for a test. I want you to shout out. You've got answer A or B. What do you think you're looking at? So A, we have a juvenile bald eagle because we have the white, we have the deodorant in the wing pits there. And the B, we have a golden eagle because the cologne is in the outer part of the wrist. Very good. Now, the other thing to look for, as long as we're looking at the wings, I want you to look at how the wings pinch into the body. On a golden eagle, the wings pinch in just a little bit here, right where the secondaries here meet the body. On a bald eagle, for the most part, that's always pretty straight right along there. So let's go back again. So the wings pinch in here at the body compared to the golden eagle, the bald eagle does not. The other thing to notice too is that the bald eagle's wing is pretty straight overall, flat like a board, straight like a board, where the golden eagle has more muscular, sorry, I can't really show you muscles, but it has more muscular shape to the wings there for the golden eagle. Also, when you're out there looking at those underwings, especially those juvenile birds, that variation on those younger birds can vary so much. And that is also very helpful when you are seeing multiple birds. Because if you've taken pictures of these birds, you can then go back and look and say, oh, well, that's a very different looking bird. I thought we saw just one bird today, but we actually saw two. And this is the time of the year, April and May, when you're out birding, keep your eyes in the sky because these birds aren't tied to a nesting territory yet. And so they're just lackadaisically taking their time working their way back north again. And so you have the opportunity yet here in April to May to maybe see these birds soaring overhead. Here's another test here quickly for you as we start to wrap up here. We've got which one of these is different? B is different. B is a juvenile bald eagle, where the other two are golden eagles. All right, now sometimes the tails do look similar. They both have some black and white in the tail. What I want you to key in on here, though, is the outer tail feathers. On the bald eagle, this outer tail feather is always bordered by a thick black border. So black border for bald eagle, black border. Where the golden eagle, when it has a tail somewhat similar, it's a very thin border or a border that's almost non-existent, okay? As you can see here in the bald eagle, though, it's very wide black border on those juvenile bald eagles. Here's a golden eagle. Look, very minimal border. Also look at that very short head projection. And we have to really look to see if that bird even has a beak or not. So that's definitely not Jimmy Durante right there. Also, cinder block versus vase. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, the bald eagles have kind of a stocky appearance like a cinder block. They're very much of a blocky shape. Whereas the golden eagle has much more rounded shoulders, and it gives you more of a vase shape or more of a red-tailed hawk, more of a buteo shape with that broad, bold shoulders of the bald eagle. Here's the golden eagle. You can see the golden nape. You can also see that rounded shape. Here's another golden eagle. You can see the rounded golden nape and the short beak and the rounded shoulders. And here we have two bald eagles, that cinder blocks on the outsides. In the middle there, we have a golden eagle with the more rounded shoulders. All right, another golden eagle here. You can really see that nice golden nape even from the distance, but does it look like that bird has a beak? Kind of hard to tell whether it does or not. All right, so here's your final test. All right, everybody shout them out. All right, so yes, this bird does have some brown on its back. It looks golden brown, but it's not on the nape. The beak is all dark. It's very large, and those legs are bald, and it happens to be on a mud flat. So this is most definitely a juvenile bald eagle. How about this one? Has some white in the black of the tail, but it looks pretty clear here. There's really no dark border there, and the white's in the outer part there of the wing near the wrist, and it's a short head projection and very little beak, small beak. So we have a golden eagle there. And here, how about this one? Has some golden brown, but it's not on the back of the nape. Beak looks pretty big and dark. Legs look bald. It is a juvenile bald eagle. But remember, everybody makes mistakes because this particular sign was up at Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And it said, don't forget to look up. Golden eagles glide high on thermal air currents. You know better, though. This is a juvenile bald eagle. There's that sign right there like that. All right, last one. I believe this is your last quiz. What do we got here? We got the clouds in the way here, but we can see that dark border there. If we remove the clouds, then we can see the white underneath there in the armpits, that deodorant there. We're looking at a juvenile bald eagle. I hope that you will never make a mistake quite like this one. If you look closely at this, I can for sure think that's a bald eagle, at least according to me. But when I look closely at it, it says golden eagle charters. So remember, everybody makes mistakes. But thank you so much for being so patient with me here this morning. I appreciate the patience. I know that it's been a long morning of some great talks, but even through those great talks, I know we're getting a little tired and maybe it's ready for a snooze this afternoon. But thank you, though, for all being wide-eyed this morning and for the grins that you gave over some of the bad jokes. Maybe even a thumbs up or two here for all these great presentations today. But I greatly appreciate you bearing with me this morning. I hope I wasn't too much of a bore. Now, I know you had many things that you could do today, but you chose out of many things either this one or either that. Thank you for choosing this one. Yeah, I'm getting the looks. Move on, Scott. And I want to thank my photographers for providing photos. I want to invite you to come on down to the National Eagle Center, invite you to learn all the things that we do at the Eagle Center, but also come out on one of our field trips where we take you out on bus trips or private trips where we take looking for bald eagles, golden eagles, swans, you name it. We have got a great cast of naturalists here ready to help you out. So with that, I'm going to end my time and thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to having some folks help with the survey. Remember, it's always the third Saturday in January. And if you send an email to golden@nationaleaglecenter.org, I will put you on the email list. We'll get you the dates. And we have a training session that you have to go through, kind of like we just did, but a little bit longer and not so rushed. But a lot of good information out there. And so looking to share that with you. Thank you.
Woo, that was fabulous, Scott. A good thing that many of us were muted. I laughed out loud a few times. So I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but we'll give a few minutes for questions. I think it's a testament to how good you were at laying out those identification features and then also giving us visual pictures to help us remember them, from big schnozzes to deodorant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I just want to say, Jen, real quick, Jen, that as I'm thinking about this, and we've got a lot of birders out there, when I started this 30 some years ago, I was just doing this for fun. And I was just intrigued by the golden eagles. And so to think about where it's evolved to today with the research project, and there's more research being done on golden eagles in this area, and the more knowledge that's out there, any single one that's tuning in here today can be just like I did, and become very fascinated by stuff and learn about things. We've learned about some other researchers doing some stuff today. I didn't start out to be a researcher, but it's there, and we've learned so much over the last 30 years. And so, like you mentioned, the Raptor Center and that's what we thought back then. And so it's changed, and so it's wonderful to see that, and anybody can do that. So just find your passion and go with it.
All right, it looks like you have a few questions. Number one is, could you repeat that email one more time, please? And maybe put it in the chat too.
I will do that. Yep. So I'll say it first here. It's golden@nationaleaglecenter.org. So once again, all one word, National Eagle Center, but it's golden@nationaleaglecenter.org.
All right. And then Ivan, who may be a fabulous volunteer for you in the future, would like to know, what are the surveys like in practice? Are you just driving the roads and looking for birds in the sky? How many hours do people go out?
Great questions. And so it is kind of if they're familiar with a road survey, and so we're driving along roadways and then scanning and looking in likely spots where either golden eagles have been seen before or where we might suspect they might be, and then occasionally stopping and getting out and doing some scanning. But it's generally, most observers spend about 4 hours is the minimum amount of time that I want people out on that day. But some people go out the whole day, spend the whole day out there. And so it generally, the prime time, it's not like other bird stuff where you got to get up the crack of dawn to be listening for the birds. This is a bird that relies on thermals. And so the later in the day, sometimes it's better to catch them because then they're more likely to be seen. These golden eagles are very hard to find when they're perched. I can take people to valleys where I know where they're perched because I've been watching them perch in the same trees for 30 years, and people can look right past them until I point them out. But once these birds are in the air, then they're more likely to be found. And so that's why I like surveyors to get out midday when the birds are more likely to be out. And so in answer to the question, yeah, last year we drove over 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles of backcountry roads were driven on that day, with over 1,200 survey hours spent by those 226 observers.